All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me. We'll go ahead and get started here. If you got questions, go ahead and post them. It's going to be below the video if you're on a smaller screen, to the right of the video if you're on a larger screen. So let's see here. See if we got some questions in there for today. All right, looks like we got a few in there. Good to see. All right, so we'll start here with Joe M. Says, good afternoon. I think this was posted late yesterday, it looks like. My question is, I have been swing from the top, mostly shoulders, to generate speed and power, and I know that's wrong. What trigger from the top can I use to start the downswing but feel powerful in doing so? So it's not totally wrong. The golf swing is kind of like a chop motion, right? It is, if you think about it, the golf swing is this, right? That is part of where you get power. The difference is, right, I'm turning my shoulders and my body, right? So I'm essentially chopping down. I'm coming down with my arms hard to create power, but I'm also using my legs to rotate my body, right? So those two things are happening. So I'm doing this with my body, right? And I'm doing this with my arms and my shoulders. That's creating a lot of power. So we definitely you want to keep this powerful feeling. You just want to make sure that you're using your legs to get power and things like that. So really what it comes down to is starting from the ground up, right? I want to get pressure in my lead foot to get things rotating, and then I'm going to use that momentum to help me to even throw down my arms even harder, right? So a great drill to help you with that would be the sumo step drill from the 20-minute distance fix. Because what we're doing in that drill is we're starting with our feet together, right? We're starting the swing going back, and then we're getting our momentum moving forward, right? And then I want to get my foot on the ground and start putting pressure in the ground before I start my arms coming down kind of motion, right? So that's a great drill to really help you to feel that. So to get to that sumo step drill, just click the instruction tab at the top, then click the 20-minute distance fix, and then go to week 1 of the 20-minute distance fix. You'll see it's the second drill in week 1, the sumo step drill. Or you can also search it. If you're not familiar, we actually have an awesome search engine on the website. It works very well. So if you go to the upper right-hand corner of the website, if you're on like the normal website, there'll be a little search box there. You can search 2 words, sumo step, and that drill will come right up. If you're on a mobile device, you can still use a search box. You just have to kind of go find it. So the easy way to find it is to click the icon in the upper right-hand corner. They call it a hamburger icon. It looks like 3 horizontal lines. If you select that, that will expand the menu. Then you scroll all the way to the bottom of that menu, and you'll find that search box there, and they can search the sumo step. All right, let's keep going. So Kirk M says, I'm a right-handed golfer, and I've been fighting the chicken wing. I cannot find a drill that encourages the extension of the left arm. So let's talk about the chicken wing a little bit. So the chicken wing isn't necessarily a bad thing. The chicken, there's good chicken wings, there's bad chicken wings, right? I'm not talking about the ones that you eat. I'm talking about in the golf swing strictly. So the good chicken wing is where we are rotating our body, right? And we get a little bit of that arm kind of bending as we come through contact. There are lots of tour players who do this. Brooks Koepka, Jordan Spieth, Lee Westwood, Angel Cabrera. Lots of tour players who have a chicken wing as they come through contact. I think Scotty Scheffler would even be another one that kind of has that chicken wing in the swing. So obviously those guys are all pretty dang good, right? So it's okay to have a chicken wing. The chicken wing that is bad is when we don't have any rotation of our body, and basically what's happening is we're our arms are essentially folding up because our lead shoulder is stopping, right? So the good chicken wing is when we're actually kind of pulling the club up by bending our arm and we're rotating. And the reason why that's good is because that can help you to accelerate the club and get more speed and stabilize the club face, right? So that's why you see some tour players doing that. And they're not, I don't think most of them are doing it on purpose. I think it's just something that intuitively that they do. But basically what it comes down to, if you're rotating your body, releasing the club out in front, and you have a chicken wing, I would not worry about it at all. Zero. I'd worry about it zero. It's actually a good thing that you're doing that. It would probably be detrimental if you tried to fix it. But if you're someone who is coming through contact and you're early releasing the club, your hips are stalling. They're not rotating at all through impact. Basically at impact, you look like this, right? And your arms folding up because your lead shoulder is stopping, then that's the chicken wing that's the issue, right? Where you're not, it's preventing you from doing the Tasvigal system. So really what it comes down to is the chicken wing is coming from the arms racing in front of the body and the body not rotating. So you need to be working on getting the body to rotate through impact. Now, it's hard to say exactly why you may not be rotating your body through impact. There's lots of reasons why that can happen. But the main ones are because we're coming down steep and we're having to stand up to shallow out the club. And when we stand up to shallow out the club, we can't rotate our body. So let me explain. If this club's coming down steep, right? This club is like in this position. It's more vertical, right? This is what's called steep. So this is steep. This is shallow, right? So if I'm steep, I basically have two options from here, right? I can either continue to come down steep and come down over the top, slices, pulls, pull hooks, very poor strikes. Typically, that's a high handicapper move. A lower or a less than high handicapper move, a mid handicapper move. I actually do see some fairly high level players doing this as well, but where we come down steep, but then we stand up to shallow it out. Because you see here, if I'm steep and then I go like that, look what happens to the club. It shallows out, right? But when this action of extending my hips in that direction toward the golf ball makes it to where I can't rotate, right? And if I can't rotate, then that can be the cause of the chicken wing, right? So that's probably the number one thing I would say is the issue. Another issue would be your mechanism of squaring up the face. If your mechanism of squaring up the face is early releasing the club, then that can also lead to a poor amount of rotation. You're just releasing the club hard and stalling the body to release the club as quickly as you can to square up the face. What we want to understand is that releasing the club earlier, right? When we're coming in and we're like this instead of that, right? That is a mechanism to close the club face. So if our club face is very open and we need to do something to get that club face closed and squared up very quickly, most people's instinction is to do an early release and stall the body, and there's your chicken wing. So that would be another thing that I would be looking at as well. Now, both of these things are things that we work on in the 20-minute shallowing fix. So I would venture to say if you work on the 20-minute shallowing fix, that'd probably be your first step to getting rid of your chicken wing. Now, there could be some other things going on. You could be shallowing out the club really well. You could have, you could be, not early releasing to square the face. It's hard to say without seeing your swing. But I would say the 20-minute shallowing fix is more than likely going to be the first step to helping you to get rid of the chicken wing. So, usually, when we talk about chicken wing, it's not something that you're trying to do. It's something that you're doing as a necessity to be able to hit the ball functionally, right? So, in order to get to where you can hit the ball functionally without doing it, you most likely got to get the club shallowing out and squaring up earlier, or squaring up in a different way. So that's why I'd be looking at the 20-minute shallowing fix. So to get to the 20-minute shallowing fix, click the instruction tab, then click the 20-minute shallowing fix and get started on those drills. To really be able to pinpoint and know for sure, hey, this is why you're chicken winging. This is what we need to do. Here's a plan. Let's execute it. I would recommend signing up for unlimited swing reviews and working with an instructor to be able to do that. Unfortunately, if I can't see your swing and know exactly and see what the cause and effect of everything is, there's just no way for me to know. And all I can really tell you is what the number one thing that I see is. And there's a good chance that you're doing that, but it's hard to say for sure, right? So if you're interested in doing unlimited swing reviews, let me actually check and see if anybody's got any spots available. Yeah, so I actually have some spots available if you're interested in working with me. Some other instructors, Robin, and looks like Michael does too. So there are some instructors with spots available if you want to work with us. I'm not going to be offended if you'd like to work with another instructor instead of me, but I would love to have the opportunity to work with you and help you with your game. So if you want to check that out, click the get a review link at the top of the page. And obviously, if you have any questions about swing reviews, I'll be happy to answer them in the office hours as well. All right, so let's get going. So Paul B says, how do you adjust your swing, ball positioning, etc., when hitting from the rough? Really, you're not going to change your swing that much. Your ball position may move slightly more back in your stance, depending on how severe the rough is. If it's a good lie in the rough, you're really not going to change your ball position or your swing or anything at all. You're just going to take whatever a normal swing is. And when I say a good lie in the rough, it means that you have clear access to the golf ball, right? So sometimes you get the ball where it's sitting up nicely in the rough, and sometimes you get the ball where it's sitting down in the rough, and you kind of have to go down and get it. So if that is the case, then all you're really doing is moving the ball a little bit more back in the stance. And I guess you would change your swing a little bit. You're not actually changing the swing. You're just trying to get your body more forward so you can swing down more steeply on the ball, and you can go down and get the ball. The other thing would be you might swing more aggressively. If it's very deep rough, you're going to have to swing with some club head speed to get through that rough, to keep the club or to keep the rough from grabbing the club. So that's really what it comes down to is depending on the lie, right? Depending on the rough, not all rough lies are created equal, right? So it's just going to depend. So the more severe it is, the less access you have to the golf ball, the more back in the stance it goes, the more forward your body needs to get to swing more steeply, and the more aggressively you need to swing, right? The better the lie is, the less you need to move in that direction. All right, so let's keep going. So Keith L says, how do you not change the low point to beyond the ball in your swing when you have 20 degrees or less of spine tilt away from the ball at address? Let me read that again. How do you not change the low point to beyond the ball in your swing when you have 20 degrees or less of spine tilt away from the ball at address? So I'm not quite sure I understand the question fully, but at address, we're going to be somewhere in that 6 to 8 degree range, right? And the reason why we want to be in that range for a couple reasons. One, it gets your body in a good position at address to be able to bring the club back the way that you want to, right? So what we want to understand is that our trail hand is lower on the grip, right? So if I don't have any spine angle and I have to reach for the bottom of the grip, I have to reach lower on the grip with my trail hand. Well, what that does is that kind of opens up my shoulders and my hips, that opens up my body. And what that's going to tend to make me do is it's going to tend to make me want to swing more over the top, right? So if I get some spine tilt, right, somewhere in that 6 to 8 degree range, well, now I can more comfortably put my trail hand on the grip here, and I can have my knees, my hips, and my shoulders, everything nice and square here in address. That would be ideal. So that's the main reason why we want to have it. And then another reason is because it puts your body in the position that you already want to be in at the top. So if you just kind of work from impact, right? At impact, I want to have my spine angled away, somewhere in that 18 to 25 degree range, right? So if you're kind of looking at the middle of my, kind of my zipper here and my belt buckle, which will be right in this area, right? That's going to be roughly about 18 to 25 degrees angled away at contact, right? So to get to that position, it's a lot easier to get to that position that we want to be in at impact. And the reason why we want to be in this position at impact is that it allows us to get this club releasing out in front and to come in nice and shallow with a divot, right? If I'm more like this, I'm going to tend to chop down on the ball. I'm going to tend to also swing over the top. So this allows me to swing nicely from the inside. This allows me to come in nice and shallow with the turf. This allows me to get good ball first contact. This allows me to release the club out in front. This is what you see every single tour player, every single good ball striker is in this kind of position at impact. There are no tour players that are like this at impact. Not a single one that's like straight up and down. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. So that's what it comes down to, is looking at what the best players are doing, the commonalities between all of them, right? And those are really the main things that we want to work on, right? That we want to see in all golf swings. So if you think about, okay, well, that's the position I want to be in. Well, how can I get there from the address position to impact? Well, an easy way to do that is at the top of the swing, I want to have my body angled away, right? If I have my body angled away at the top, then it makes it a lot easier to get my body angled away at impact. If my body is like this at the top, tell you what, that's going to be really hard to get to that position at impact, right? And to get to this position at the top where I'm angled away, it's a heck of a lot easier to do that if I'm in an angled away position at address. So that's where we want to be with things. Now, as far as the low point of your swing, right, that definitely has something to do with that, because if our spine is more angled away, that's going to make it a lot easier to swing from the inside. When you swing more from the inside, your low point is going to tend to be more, on this side of the target, right? So that means we have to make sure that we're shifting our body forward and that we're releasing the club out in front. So there's three things that mainly affect the low point of your swing. And when I say the low point of your swing, we're talking about where the club comes down, bottoms out, and then works back up. Now, keep in mind, this is not where your club is hitting the turf. Your club is most of the time hitting the turf before the low point occurs in the swing. If you're taking a divot, a lot of times your low point is occurring somewhere in the middle of that divot, right? So obviously your club's hitting the turf, then it's bottoming out in the turf, and then it's coming out of the turf, right? So there's three things that can control this. There's three main things that control this low point. So one is going to be what we refer to in the Toss Golf system as the compression line. So the compression line is the line that goes from my lead ankle, lead hip, and lead shoulder at contact. So if you imagine, if I'm very angled away, and this has a lot to do with spine angle, the more my compression line is angled away, typically the more my spine angle is going to be angled away. But if I get to where I'm like this, where I'm too far angled away, well, look, my spine angle is like 30, 40 degrees angled away, but my compression line is very angled away. That's going to make me really bottom out back here, right? So I don't want to have my compression line much more than that. For shots off the turf, I like to see a compression line that's vertical to just slightly angled away. That's what you're going to see in the best ball strikers. You're going to see somewhere in that area. So you can see here, this is a compression line that's maybe a couple degrees angled away. So ankle, hip, shoulder, straight line from there. That's slightly angled away, a couple degrees maybe. And then you're seeing my spine angle is, somewhere in that 18 to 25 degree range. This would be an ideal kind of impact position, right? So if I get my too far forward, my compression line too far forward, that's going to promote too much chopping down into the golf ball. My club's going to bottom out too far in front. Now, that's not a bad drill. If you're someone who's really struggling coming into contact like this, it's actually not a bad drill to do to get the feeling of being more forward and then easing off of it. It's a drill that I often have students doing. But that's not the end goal of where we want to be. We don't want to be like this. Maybe for a specialty shot, you might be like that. But for all, your stock kind of shots, you don't want to be too far angled forward and too far angled away. But that can change the bottom of your swing drastically just by changing that. So that's one. Two is the path of the club, right? So if you imagine this, if I swing 45 degrees into out, where's my club going to bottom out? It's going to bottom out more back here. If I swing 45 degrees over the top, right, my club's going to bottom out more in front, right? So that's another thing that really can change the low point of your swing. So if I have more spine angle, that's going to make it easier for me to swing more from the inside. If I have too much spine angle, right? If I get too far angled away, then I'm going to swing too much from the inside and tend to hit the ground too far before the ball, right? So we don't want to have too much spine angle, but we definitely want to have, some to allow us to swing the club nicely from the inside. So that'd be another piece. And then the last piece is the release of the club, right? So if you imagine if I'm coming down here and I just release the club from here, well, my club's going to hit the ground back there, right? If I'm here and then I release the club a lot later, right, then my club's going to bottom out more in front, right? So those are really the things that they're going to control the low point of your swing. So if you're having trouble with the low point of your swing, it's going to be one of those three things. And I would work on them in that order. I'd work on them in the compression line. If your compression line's too far angled away or too far forward, I'd definitely be looking at getting that to be working better first. If your club path is too far from the inside, you're hitting the ground before the ball, then I would work on getting it to be less from the inside. And then if it's the release of the club, then I'd work on getting the club to release better. I work on them in that order. The reason for that is because, one, that's order of importance, right? You're going to hit a lot better golf shots if your compression line's better than if your release is better. You can hit good golf shots with a poor release. It's possible. Whereas if your compression line is way too far angled away, it's going to be really, really tough unless you have a crazy late release or something like that. It's going to be tough to hit good golf shots. And then also, if you're swinging way too much from the inside, way too much over the top, again, hard to hit good golf shots. So you can hit good golf shots with an early release. It's not optimal. It's not what we see the best ball strikers doing, but you can still hit good golf shots. The other thing is that it's a much more difficult thing to change. The release of the club is probably the most difficult thing to change in the golf swing. So it goes in order of importance and then also in order of easier, which is nice. It's nice that the most important thing isn't the hardest thing to do. It's actually the easiest thing to do. So it's nice to have that as well. So hopefully that answers your question, Keith. I'm not sure where you're going with that, but hopefully I covered enough there to answer everything. All right, let's keep going here. So Bob B says, Q, on Golf Channel's Swing Expedition, I watched 40 episodes involving 30 teaching pros. It was hilarious. After a while, the teachers had different theories, explanations, and methods, most contradicting the others, but those using motion capture and other electronics were interesting. Do TSG sites, instructors, or other places you know of use or rent such devices for progress analysis? So thing about that, Clay was actually on Swing Expedition, so not sure if you had a chance to see Clay's episode or not. We actually had Chris Como. He came over to our studio and shot an episode with Clay, so not sure if you had a chance to see that one or not, but Clay was on there. But motion capture and other electronics, we don't have a motion capture kind of thing. But I think I know Athletic Motion Golf has gears, which is something you see a lot of places using. Gears would be one. I know Athletic Motion Golf uses gears. But yeah, it's pretty cool technology. Is it necessary to improve at golf? No, it's not. But it is pretty cool technology. So Daryl S says, is there any golf swing mechanics that apply to short golfers 5'5"? I'm trying to shallow out the club or just compressing the ball in general. Thanks. No, it's really not any different for someone who's 5'5" or 6'5". The swing mechanics, they're really the same. It's just you're just going to be a smaller version of it compared to someone who's 6'5", right? So it's not really there's nothing special that you're going to need to do as someone who's shorter versus someone who's taller. There really isn't anything. You're doing the same thing. So Ed D says, I'm struggling with nasty hooks showing up in the middle of the round. Last round, I finally just tried fading after the hook started, which helped a little, but I lost a lot of the distance. Seems like more I try to get the hands ahead of in the loft, the worse it gets. Left hand leads help, but distance goes way down. So it's hard to say exactly, why, you're getting your hands ahead is leading to these issues, or trying to get your hands ahead is leading to the issues without seeing your swing. But if you're hooking it, then there's basically one of two things happening, or both of these things combined. You're either the face is too closed to your club path. What that means is, this is the most likely cause. What that means is that the direction the club face is pointing at impact is too closed to the direction your club head is swinging through impact, right? So that would be number one. And then number two could be also toe strikes. So if you're hitting the ball way off the toe, the ball is going to tend to draw more or fade less. So a lot of times hooks come from when we're swinging, we got the face a little bit too close to the path, and then we combine that with a toe strike, and then we get kind of a weak snap hook kind of shot. Or the face is just, maybe you're hitting it solid and the face is just super close to your path. So your method of hitting a fade is a good thing to do. That's definitely what you want to be doing to accommodate that. Now, the fade really shouldn't go that much shorter. It really isn't going to go that much shorter. It goes shorter. If it's going a lot shorter, it's because you're also mishitting it when you're hitting a fade. You're probably hitting it off the heel, off the toe, or something like that. So, but all things equal, the fade is only going to be a little bit shorter because when you hit a fade, you're adding a little bit of loft, and when you add a little bit of loft, you will tend to spin it a little bit more, right? You won't compress it quite as much, but it should make such a huge difference. So I would just look at your swing, look at your draws, look at your normal swing, look at the swing when you're trying to fade it. If I had to guess, you're probably just swinging too much from the inside, mishitting it, and that's what's leading to the snap hooks. But I would be trying to hit the fade, and then look at where the strike is on the face, because that's more than likely why you're not hitting it as far. All right, so Jim S says, second exercise in the shallowing fix, feet and shoulders at target. I can easily start at target and hook, or start left and hook more, but starting right, it just keeps going right. Doesn't slice, but start right. Cannot figure out how to start right, target, then a couple yards, hook left. Any thoughts? The face isn't closed enough. So in drill number one, we're getting the club face closed. So the ball can start in any direction. It just has to hook, right? So we got to get the ball hooking. Now, once we do that, we're just taking that same thing, and then we're just swinging out to the right, right? So you just need to get the face more closed to get the ball to hook. There's two ways, or a combination of these two ways to do it. One, stronger grip, right? If I have a stronger grip, meaning my hands are more like this on the grip instead of like this, so more like this, that makes it a lot easier to get that club face closed, right? So that's the easiest way, is strengthening the grip. The other thing is to use stronger wrist angles, right? So stronger wrist angles would be bowing my lead wrist and extending back my trail wrist. If I do that, if you watch here, if I do that, that closes the club face. So imagine this, if I take a weak grip, right, meaning my thumbs are more on top, right, of the grip, and I use the opposite, I cup my lead wrist, right, and I flatten out my trail wrist. Look what that does to the face. My face is pointing up to the sky. All right, so now I'm going to take a strong grip, and now I'm going to bow my lead wrist and extend back my trail wrist. That moved the club face 180 degrees in the other direction, right? So that's what you need to do. You need to do a combination of that. I would try to do both of those things and try to get that ball hooking as much as you can. And then I would ease off of whatever one feels the most comfortable for you. If you're very comfortable with bowing your wrist and not as comfortable with a stronger grip, then go that direction. Most people are going to be more comfortable with a stronger grip and less bowing of the wrist, because it's just gripping the club stronger. You're just automatically closing the club face more by taking just a different grip of the club. Typically easier for most people, but not necessarily everyone. Everybody's a little bit different. But most people are going to be more comfortable just getting the club face closed by virtue of stronger grip and slightly better wrist angles versus crazy strong wrist angles. Now there are tour players, right? We look at John Rahm, we look at Dustin Johnson, we look at Victor Hovland. Weak grip. Dustin Johnson doesn't necessarily have a weak grip, but Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa, John Rahm, like these guys all have very weak grips, but they have extremely strong wrist angles. They're bowing their lead wrist a lot to get that club face closed. So those would be the things that I'd be looking at. All right, so Land is Man says, good morning. Any suggestions on how to maintain rhythm and timing on the course? I have trouble maintaining it through the round and sometimes swing harder as the round goes on. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, so if that is something that you're, that is an issue, then I would just build it into your rehearsal. Before every single swing, I'd be taking some kind of rhythm type swings, right? When I see people, and the other thing is kind of control your breathing, right? Control your breathing a little bit, and then just try to, before every shot, just kind of try to slow things down. Just have it be a part of your routine. If you don't do that, then things can get sped up on you and you don't even realize it. Just make it a part of your routine before every shot. So Keith L says behind. I don't know what that means. So Daryl S says, as a right-hander, is it better to have a swing thought of hitting the ball with the right side or the left side? You're hitting the ball with both sides of your body. It's not like you're not using your right side or your left side. So it's really about what works best for you. There's no one right answer there. So the golf swing is like with the lead side, with your left side, for a right-handed golfer, for the left side, right? It's like throwing a frisbee, right? That's the golf swing. It's like throwing a frisbee. For the right side, it's like throwing a ball or skipping a rock across the water. Those are the motions of the body, right? So, that's what it is with the lead arm and the trail arm. So play around with it. Do you hit the ball better if you have kind of like a frisbee throw kind of feeling, or do you hit the ball better with kind of a skipping the rock kind of feeling, right? And whatever side works best for you, that's what I would try to feel like. So Ed D says, thanks, Q4. No problem, Ed. All right, so Jim S says, follow-up question on shallow fix, second exercise. If face is closed, then the ball won't start to the right. Face has to be open to start to the right, doesn't it? That's what's confusing. Do shoulders point to the right? So that's a good question. Yes, I understand how that's confusing. So the face is going to be open to your target, but closed to your path, right? So I need to have if this is my target line, right? So let's say this alignment stick is my target line. In order for the ball to start to the right, I need the face to be open to that target line. In order for the ball to curve to the left, I need my face to be close to my path. So you can think of it this way. Let's say this PVC pipe. This is my path of my club. All right. And then we'll use this here to kind of show the angle of the face. So there we go. So this is what we need. If this or the alignment stick, that's my target line. So that's where my toe line is going to be parallel with that, right? So I need this white, the PVC pipe, that is the path of my club, right? And then the direction of my club face, it needs to be open to my target, but closed to my path. So see how the club face is pointing right of the alignment stick? So it's open to the alignment stick, but it's closed to the PVC pipe. PVC pipe is my path. The orange stick is the alignment stick. That is my target line. That's where the club needs to be coming in, right? If you're hitting it out to the right, right, and it's not curving back, then what you're doing is you're lining up your face with that PVC pipe, right? You're coming in and you're like this. So you're swinging out to the right, but your face is too open. So that's why the ball is going out to the right. So you need to get the face more closed. Now, if you get it too close, right, then the ball will start to the left and hook to the left. If I get it too close, because that ball is going to start in the direction of my club face. So I need to get it somewhere in between there, right? So the more I can swing out to the right, in the preliminary stages of this drill, the more I can, the more range I can have this club face to get it to curve back to the left, right? I can have it anywhere in there, and it will curve back to the left. But if I get it in line, if I have it in the same direction, right, of that path, it's just going to go straight in that direction. If my face and my path are lined up with each other, there's not going to be a lot of curvature on that ball, assuming you hit it in the center of the face. You hit it way off the toe, off the heel, something like that, you may get some curvature, but generally you're not going to get a ton there. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Put back my stuff here. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so Daryl S says, Q, sorry for the follow-up on the short golfer and say driver. I'm having to stand a lot farther from the ball than a 6'5". How are we doing the same thing in the swing mechanics? Yeah, you're not doing anything different. Just because the club's longer, you're not doing anything different. So you're standing, I mean, are you doing a lot different thing with a wedge versus a 5-iron? No, you're standing a lot closer to the ball with a wedge than you are the 5-iron, but you're not changing your swing mechanics, right? It's the same thing whether you're a tall person with a short club, right? Now you can get your driver to be a little bit shorter, maybe if that's more comfortable for you, but I wouldn't recommend going too short with it because then you might lose some speed. But yeah, your swing mechanics aren't going to be any different. The top speed golf system is going to be the same for you as it is for someone who's 8 feet tall. All right, so let's keep the questions coming. So how is Rory McIlroy able to drive it so far, weighing in at just about 165 pounds or 160 pounds? Well, the main thing is that he doesn't really have any power leaks in his swing. He does all of the things that you need to do to get power. So let's go through what those things are. So number one, let me get back to my screen here. So number one is we have to create space and time to accelerate the club. So how do we do that? We do that by 1, turning our hips, 2, turning our rib cage, and 3, getting our shoulders to turn, right? So if we get around, the tour player is going to have around 50 degrees of hip turn. They're going to have about 50 degrees of rib cage turning relative to their hips, relative to their pelvis. Then they're going to have about 10 to 20 degrees of protraction and retraction of the shoulders. So that's protraction is shoulder blade moving away from the spine, retraction, shoulder blade working toward the spine. So my trail shoulder is going to be retracting. My lead shoulder is going to be protracting in the backswing. So if I put those together, you can see there, hip turn, rib cage turn, and protraction, retraction of the shoulders. You can see I'm creating a lot of space to accelerate this club. So that's number one, getting our body turns correct, right? That's going to help you to create space. Another way to help you to create space is to elevate the arms, right? I need to get my arms going up there. Imagine if you were to chop wood, right? If you were to chop wood with as much power as possible, well, you would lift your arms up, right? And then you would chop down. If I was trying to chop wood right here, I wouldn't go like that. I'm not going to be able to create much power. I would get that thing getting way up there, and then I would chop down. So that's the same thing in the golf swing. I want to get my hands up so that way I can come down with more speed. So I turn my body, I lift my arms. That's how I create speed in the golf swing. So you may not have heard of this, but if you have, awesome. If you've done it, then great. But we have a distance course that's all about helping you get more distance, all about helping you get to that Rory level of distance. And there's 2 drills in there that really help you to do this. One is the catapult drill. That's where we're working on turning our hips, turning our shoulders, right? We're getting our body turns to help us to create that space. And then there's another drill. It's called the skyscraper drill, which is about getting those hands up. So if you look at Rory's swing, he's turning his shoulders quite a bit. He's a flexible guy. It definitely makes it easier if you're flexible, right? But he gets a lot of shoulder turn, and he gets his hands up pretty good, right? He's not like this at the top of the swing. He's got those hands up there above his head. So that's a big piece to help you to create a lot of speed. And that's really the number one thing. We've had distance clinics here in Orlando for Top Speed Golf, and the number one, there is no other thing that people do in their swings on average that helps people to get more speed than to get more turn and higher hands. That is the number one thing that you can do, creating more space. So that's a big part of it. Now, other things that Rory does is he uses the ground really effectively. If you ever watch Rory swing, he really does a pretty pronounced squat move in the downswing, right? So basically he comes down and he really gets some bend in those knees. So what he's doing is he's really getting into the ground to help him to push into the ground and be able to rotate his body faster, right? So that's a really, really big, important piece, really using the ground, putting a lot of force into the ground. For as light as he is, he puts a ton of force into the ground to help him to rotate his body. So also within the 20-minute distance fixed course, we have what's called the sumo step drill. And this is a great drill. We do this right away in week 1. We do the catapult power turn first, and then we work on work on using the ground. And that's one thing he does really, really well, is he really gets into the ground. And that sumo step drill is a really good drill to help you to do that. He does it as good as anybody on the PGA Tour, and he has to. When you're not a real big guy, you've got to be able to do that, right? So that's another big piece of it. Another piece of it, and I would say that this is kind of conclude the major pieces that he does, is he creates a lot of lag in his swing, and then he releases that lag really well, right? So he's coming down here, and he's starting his downswing. He's getting this club to kind of lag behind his hands, and then he releases that lag hard through impact. So when I see people really struggle with distance, a lot of times what they're doing is at the top of the swing, they may get this big turn and everything, but at the top of the swing, they start to throw out the club right away. You're just burning up all your speed when you do that. We want to get this club kind of lagging behind. We want to get some change of direction of that club. We want to get that club lagging behind, and then we want to release that out in front as hard as we can. And that's another thing that we do in the 20-minute distance fix, in a drill that we call the boomerang drill. So we call it the boomerang drill because we're thinking about the butt end of the club, getting the butt end of the club to go out away from us and then back into us as quickly as you can. Just like if you throw a boomerang, you throw it out away from you, and then it comes back. It's the same thing. I want to feel this going out away from me, and then I want it to come back into me as I release the club out in front. So the boomerang drill is a really great drill to help you to get that club lagging behind and then releasing hard to create speed. So these are all drills that we do in the 20-minute distance fix. So if you want to hit it long, like Rory McIlroy, then I highly recommend you check out the 20-minute distance fix. because it really incorporates all the things that he does really well. So this is a course that's included with your membership. All you have to do is click the instruction tab at the top of the screen and then click the 20-minute distance fix and get started on the drills. At the very least, go through our quick start program. We have a quick start. It encompasses a lot of the drills in a condensed form that we do in the program. It's just one range session. At least go out and try that out, and then start to work through the whole program. So click the instruction tab, 20-minute distance fix. Then you can go to the quick start of the 20-minute distance fix and at least get started on that drill there. All right, so let's keep going. So actually, let me do this real quick. So Jim S says, yep, I get it. Thanks. Last cue on shallowing fixed second drill. When swinging pretty far from the inside, is there a tendency to hit on a different part of the face, maybe closer to the heel? I wonder if that can also account for the impact straight right ball flight. Yeah, if you swing more from the inside, you may tend to hit the ball more on the heel because the club's working more out away from you. That is a possibility. Now, what I will say is that that's not going to make the ball start more to the right, though. Typically, when you hit the ball on the heel, the face closes, and it will start more to the left, actually. But what will happen is it may tend to fade on you, right? So you may be coming in with the face kind of closed, and then it may kind of be straightening out the ball flight because you're hitting it off the heel. So the cure for that, or the remedy for that, is just to try to hit the ball off the toe. If you're hitting the ball on the heel, you're feeling that club, you're right-handed golfer, you're feeling that club kind of twist counterclockwise in your hand. That's an indication you're hitting it off the heel. Just try to hit the ball off the toe. You're just changing your feel to hit the ball off the toe, and that will likely move that strike more in the center of the face. So Dan S says, when you say the ball goes in the direction of the face, I've always looked at it as the ball starts in the direction of the swing, but curves in the direction of the face. Any clarifications? Yeah, it starts in the direction of the club face and then curves away from the club path, right? So if you think about it in this sense, and you can do this as an experiment at home, and you'll totally see what I'm talking about. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this putter, and I'm just going to swing it straight back and straight through. So that would mean my path is just going straight forward. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the face like 45 degrees, right? So I'm going to have it like this, and I'm just going to bring it straight back and straight through, basically in line with this mat, right? And you tell me where the ball starts, right? So that ball went straight right, basically. It went in the direction of the face, even though I didn't swing the club in that direction. I swung the club parallel with this mat, right? So that ball started in the direction of the club face. Now, it does go in a small percentage. It's going to start mostly in the direction of the club face. It's almost entirely, it's like 80, 85%. The less loft you have on the club, the more it's going to start in the direction of the face. So with a driver, it's going to start more in the direction of the face than it will with a wedge, but it's still almost entirely in the direction of the club face, right? Now, if we think about the other sense, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this face square, but now I'm going to change the path. I'm going to take the path, and I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go way, way into out with the path. And if the ball starts in the direction of my path, then that ball should just go straight right. Right? But let's see what happens. That ball went dead straight, right? It went mostly in the direction of the club face, right? It went a very, very small amount to the right. Very, very small amount, but it went mostly dead straight. So try that at home and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, right? So open face, I swing it in the direction, the ball's going to go straight right. it's going to go in the direction of the club face. Square, if I have that face square, and then I make the direction of the path into out, straight out to the right. I mean, I swung almost 90 degrees out to the right there. It's probably 80 degrees out to the right. And the face was square, and it went almost entirely dead straight, right? So it's going to go in the direction of the club face and then curve away from the club path. If you want to learn more, if you want to learn more about ball flight laws and stuff like that, I would highly recommend checking out TrackMan University. It's a free online learning kind of program that teaches you all about ball flight laws, tells you everything basically you would want to know. So if you want to check that out, just do a Google search, TrackMan University. It's very, very cool videos, illustrations, tells you all the ball flight laws and stuff like that. And it's 100% free. All right, so let's keep going. So Dan S says, also, does swing speed affect curvature? Yes. The more speed you have, the more spin you're going to put on the ball, and the more opportunity you have to curve it, right? So curve is going to come from when the spin axis gets tilted, right? So if you think about like the wings of an airplane, if I'm an airplane and I tilt my wings this way, then I'm going to curve off that way, right? If I tilt my wings this way, I'm going to curve off that way. So the ball spins on an axis, right? So if you look here, I actually have a ball with a nail through it. You can think of this nail as the spin axis, right? So if this gets tilted, it's going to go off that way. It gets tilted that way, it's going to go off that way. The more spin it has, the more, when it gets tilted, the more it's going to curve, right? If I don't have a lot of spin and it gets tilted, it's not going to curve as much, right? So that's how this swing speed is going to affect the curvature of the ball, because the more, that's why it's a heck of a lot easier to curve a driver than it is to curve a wedge, right? Because there's a lot more speed going on there, right? The more speed you have, the more it's going to affect that. You know, it's fairly easy to hit a 50-yard slice with a driver, but not so much with a wedge, right? All right, so Di asks, Morning Q, what are the major reasons which cause the inconsistency of ball shot? I play quite well one day and next day I just fall apart. Would you give some advice to maintain consistency of play? That's a very, very broad question. So I can only really give you a vague answer. So what it comes down to is it's really just the top speed golf system. The number one key to consistency within the top speed golf system would be your stable fluid spine. So that's really the number one thing that kind of affects things. If my spine angle is like this too much, I'm going to swing too much from the inside. I'm going to tend to hit the ground before the ball. If I manage to hit the ball, I'm going to tend to hit blocks and hooks and things like that. If I get like this, right, where I'm more this way, I'm going to tend to come over the top. I'm going to tend to hit the ground more in front. I'm going to tend to hit tops, chunks. If I get the club on the ball, if I make solid contact, I'm going to tend to hit pulls and slices and things like that. So having our spine angle in a nice stable position where it's not moving around everywhere, right? That's going to make things a lot easier. So if my spine moves way off like this or way forward like this, again, that affects a lot of things. So I'd say the number one thing is the stable fluid spine. But if what you want to pay attention to are more to what exactly are the inconsistencies, right? So when you don't hit a good shot, what is the tendency, right? Is it you chunk it? Is it you top it? Is it you hit thin off the toe, off the heel, big slice, big hook? You're going to have a tendency there, right? There's going to be some sort of tendency that is going on. So the first thing I would look at is your contact, right? Are you making ball first contact? And if you are, where are you hitting the ball on the face? That'd be the first thing that I'd be looking at. So look at what your tendency is there and then work specifically on that tendency. So if you're making good ball first contact most of the time, but you're hitting it way off the heel, then I would work on trying to hit the ball more in the center of the face by virtue of trying to hit the ball off the toe, right? And then that will get you to where you're hitting it more solid. Now, let's say you're making good ball first contact. You're hitting the ball in the center of the face, but the ball goes everywhere, right? You slice it, or you hook it. Work on whatever the tendency is, and to correct that. So that's what I would recommend doing. Now, if you want to cut to it and get to where you want to have a plan to fix whatever the issue is, I'd recommend working with an instructor. That would be my best advice. But outside of that, it's really just the top speed golf system, and then the courses that address the specific issues that you might be having, right? So if you're hitting a bunch of slices, I'd recommend the 20-minute shallowing fix. If you're hitting a bunch of tops and chunks, I'd recommend the stop chunking and topping course. If you're hitting hooks every time, I'd recommend our never hook again course, right? Outside of that, all I can really tell you is the top speed golf system, unless you have something specific that's going on with your ball flight or contact, and then I can try to steer you in the right direction the best I can. All right, so Dan S says, thanks. Putter demo was interesting. Yeah, no problem, Dan. Yeah, they actually, I mean, the books, the books that the PGA, pros, that they used to think that before, like, the launch monitors and stuff came out, TrackMan, stuff like that, they used to think exactly what you said, that the direction of the swing determines the start direction of the shot, and then the face determines the curvature. And it's not really what it is. The face determines the direction the ball starts mostly, and then the curvature is determined by the difference of the face and the path, right? And also the strike location, right? So the ball's going to start mostly in the direction of the club face, then curve away from the club path. The closer the face and the path are together, the less curvature you're going to have. The further they are apart, the more curvature you're going to have, right? Now, this is all assuming you hit the ball in the center of the face. If you hit the ball on the heel for a right-handed golfer, that ball is going to start more to the left than it normally would. It doesn't mean it's going to start to the left. It means it's more to the left than it normally would. If the face is way open, you can still get the ball to start to the right if you hit it off the heel. So it's going to start more to the left than it normally would, and it's going to tend to fade more or draw less than it normally would. Doesn't mean that it's going to fade for sure. It just means that it's going to, you can hit the ball with a hook swing, hit it off the heel, and it can still hook, right? It just depends on how severe your face and path relationship is. It's just that it's going to alter it. It's going to change how much it would had you hit it in the center of the face. Now, if you hit the ball off the toe, the opposite's true. The ball's going to start more to the right than it normally would because the face twists open, and then it's going to tend to draw more or fade less, right? It doesn't mean if you hit it off the toe, you're going to automatically draw it. You get the ball with a huge slice swing, and you can still slice it if you hit it off the toe. You can also hit it so far off the toe that it doesn't, the gear effect doesn't take place. If the face twists open so much that the ball just goes way to the right, sometimes that can happen as well. So keep that in mind. But if you want to learn more about this, I highly recommend checking out that TrackMan University. That can really help you to get a better understanding, because they've got video illustrations. It's a really, really cool thing. I assume it still exists, and I assume it's still free. It's been years since I've been on there, but it's a really, really cool thing. I think a lot of golfers can get a leg up on things if understanding ball flight laws is really one thing that really helped me to be able to understand how to improve, because it's not necessarily the ball flight and the contact are the most important things, and the way that you swing the club is just to get the proper ball flight and contact. So what I see a lot of people doing is they'll just try things in their swing. They'll just be throwing things up against the wall to see if it changes, see if it helps, right? And that is, you can do it that way. It can be effective, but you're just guessing, right? Whereas if you understand ball flight laws and contact and how that affects the ball flight and things like that, then you can very easily know, okay, well, this is what I need to do. This is what golf instructors do. So if you understand ball flight laws, you can kind of be your own golf instructor because you can understand, okay, well, I'm hitting the ground behind the ball. Let me look at my swing. What is making me hit the ground behind the ball? Oh, I'm hanging back. I'm not transferring my weight. Well, if I just transfer my weight, boom, I'm going to start making ball first contact, right? Or if you understand, okay, I'm hitting a slice. Well, man, I look on video, look, my club path, I'm steep and over the top. Well, if I just get that club working from the inside, boom, I'm not going to slice it anymore, right? So that's really what it comes down to, right? So Di goes on, or Rick says, Q, always informative. Thank you, Rick. No problem, Rick. Glad to help. Rick has done swing reviews with me. So Di says, hi, Q. What university you mentioned? It's TrackMan University. So just go online. It's completely online. It's free. Just Google TrackMan. So track, TRACK, man, one word, TrackMan University. It's a really, really cool program. It's got videos, informative videos, and then it's got quizzes in there that you can take to make sure that you understand it. Very, very, very cool. So, all right. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. We'll be back here tomorrow, Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern time for Thursday. So everybody have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to you next time.